Patricia, you asked why I didn't have our glorious Pooch on the programme. This is why. Look at him. Poor fella. This is what I put him through. He's got to wear a hat. Right there, Dino. Dino Vino Dachshund. Appropriately, Dino, for an entirely Italian-themed day. I'm going to let him down. He's not really good at the wine tasting. He's flicked off his hat. I'm going to take off mine. Hello. Hello, welcome back. Happy Monday. We're going to get stuck straight in. Today we got wines from Ultravino, a Piemonte specialist fine wine importer with a focus on outstanding, under-the-radar artisan producers from Barolo, Barbaresco and Roero. And we're going to start straight away. I'm just wondering, actually, I might even have a copy of the Gambara Rosso somewhere. A lot of their wines are in there. We're going to start off with Gabriele Bertoni, Gabriele Bertoni and Angela Masella and James Taylor are the founders of Ultravino. Gabriele Bertoni comes from that part of the world. Angela is obsessed with all things Italian, and James is a friend of a friend who put me in touch. So nice to see you all. There are some brilliant little videos. We will put some films on YouTube. We'll do a link to them. Watch them. It does say Gabriele had been tasting from 8 AM to 9 PM solidly for 3 days in a row. In Piemonte, it is a sign of disrespect to the winemaker to use a spittoon. I won't be doing that then. We do strive to maintain utter professionalism throughout. Actually, we should upload an outtakes clip one day. They are pretty funny. So there are some additional films of Gabriele interviewing the winemakers, but we couldn't knit them in. Sorry about that. We're going to start with Roberto Garbarino, Alta Metodo, Classico, Extra Brut. And I've got a little note here. This comes from Robin and Rosie in St Neots. Hello. They say, hi, it's Robin and Rosie. We're loving the show. Thank you very much indeed. Now, when they went to Italy, they discovered Franciacorta, which Italians were very proud to describe as Italian champagne. We'd love to know your view. Is it as good as, or possibly even better than champagne? And where can you buy some? Well, there are various Italian sparkling wines. One of them is Franciacorta, but there are lots of others. And this is one that you should absolutely have a go with. This is made from Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, 60-40, like champagne, although more Chardonnay in a way. Oh, now, Roberto, this is a picture of him, and I believe his partner, but I can't find out exactly. I did run around in Neville, a small town near Barbaresco, and this is reckoned to be one of the very best Metodo Classico sparkling wines in the region. He's a humble but ambitious guy becoming a legend, and he should be becoming a legend. This is glorious. Hazelnuts, straight away, hazelnuts and apples. I tell you what, that is glorious. It's different from champagne. That's the point. They're not the same. There is more fruit often in Italian sparklers, but that doesn't mean that there's any less refinement and style about the wines. That's delicious wine. It's got more of a bright apple character, perhaps less yeastiness, although it's still got mouth texture and so on. They are different. In terms of absolute quality, though, every year I do the voiceover for the Champagne and Sparkling Wine World Championships, organised by the brilliant Tom Stevenson, arguably the greatest sparkling wine man in the world. And he has a brilliant panel of judges, Essie, fantastic MW, and between them they taste all these wines. Italy and France dominate the awards. And these are all wines that are tasted blind, just as really great wines. Interestingly, outside Champagne, France does about as well as China, like one award, or Argentina, Hungary. It has nice wines, but very, very few. Champagne is where it's at. In Italy, there are brilliant sparkling wines in Franciacorta. You've got brilliant ones up in Trentino. You've got fabulous wines like this from Piemonte. So there's a really glorious sparkling wine tradition across the north of Italy. That's a delicious wine. I recommend it a lot. It's £25.43. It is less expensive than most champagnes, but it's every bit as stylish. There's a more interesting floral lift to it. Oh. So I've got all sorts of interesting notes. Manual selection, gently pressed. It spends 30 to 40 months on its yeast. So it has had that remuage That's, you know, the sort of riddling, just like in champagne, but it has had lots of time sitting on the lees, giving it that texture. But it's maintained lots of fruit. It's a vintage wine, 2015. We only make 6,000 bottles of it. I recommend it very highly. And it's a practicing organic vineyard. It's quite hard to do in Champagne. It's really glorious. Now then, I'm going to move on a little bit to wine number 2. Alberto Burzi, Barbera d'Alba, Plaustra. All these wines come from people who are in, if you like, they're about to break through into the big league. And this is what Ultravino does. I've followed Ultravino for a while. Very small company. But they go out and they find people. I think this is Gabriele. He knows lots of folk. I think this is right, Gabriele, because your family make like dry goods, like labels or corks or something, isn't it? And so he gets to know who's on the up. So if you're an Italian wine fan and you want to know who the next big superstars are, the next Giovanni Rossos or these emerging talents, this is the place to go. Here we've got Alberto as a nice picture of him. Let's have a look here. Now, I think that is Alberto and his sister, Catherine. And this is from La Morra. And Alberto is one of these people, in fact, the next 2 wines, families who sold their grapes to big, larger producers. And we decided, no, we're going to sort of take this in-house and we're going to do it ourselves and we're going to do it our own way, which is almost always organically. So part of a new generation of winemakers emerging in the Langhe. Alberto is one of the most promising on the scene, making wines of great balance and personality. And he's determined to go and show the characteristic of individual vineyards. Oh, now then. Barbera is a lovely wine. It is, if you like, the midweek wine of the Langhe, of Nebbiolo. So Nebbiolo is a sort of weekend wine. It's more tannic and it's fine. It's the sort of Pinot Noir. It's challenging to grow. Barbera has fresh acidity. It's bright. It's got a sort of tart cherry aroma to it. It's bright, along with blackberry and so on. But it's much lower tannins. So it's an easier going, easier drinking style of wine. Just perhaps more appropriate for our age, for our era, you know, where we are right now. Something that is not quite so demanding. It's a bit more comforting and gentle. He has some of the oldest Nebbiolo, but this is what we've got to go and try today, which I feel is rather better. So it's all been spent its time in stainless steel tanks. Now, I know that sounds like a terribly technical detail, but what we're not necessarily after are very oaky, heavy wines that are going to live forever. We want something that's fresh and sort of midweeky. Now, how much is it? It's not entirely midweeky on price. It's the sort of thing you'd buy in a restaurant. £17.68. I think this is the thing you can do right now. You're not out eating in restaurants, where actually £17 wouldn't buy you anything really in a restaurant. But here you can have a really fine restaurant wine in your own home. And I think it is incumbent on us to maintain that supply of reasonably smart wines and the sort of things that will go into restaurants and look after our little wine merchants. Oh, that's really good. And it's a lovely colour too. It sort of has a, what do we call that? Sort of rosy red. I actually wrote down a quote: "With a smile that glowed celestial rosy red, love's proper hue." It's John Milton, that, but I couldn't remember it, so I wrote it down. Although I do remember, is it Nancy Reagan? And she had a great, Nancy Reagan goes the other way. Nancy Reagan, she said she liked red because it's a picker-upper. It's a picker-upper. It is a picker-upper. It should cheer you up. Interesting connection here. I know it sounds like a bit of a link, but Ronald Reagan and Nancy had one of the first temperature-controlled in-house cellars in the United States. And it was because Ronald Reagan presented a program that's sponsored by General Electric. And as part of it, they were probably the last really big enophiles, big sort of wine fans in the White House. And as part of the deal, General Electric installed this massive wine cellar in his own home. Which brings me on to our partner, Sorrels. I told you it was a link, who install cellars. Sorrels wine racks. They put beautiful cellars in people's homes. Got a picture of one under somebody's stair here. You can donate and help the NHS and enter a draw to win a Sorrels wine wall and other prizes worth over £5,000. Don't say we don't do anything for you. This is the most glorious thing. So we're going to put up the donation thing. It's just giving / fundraising / Sorrels wine racks. So I'll read out a little bit here. It says the NHS Charities National COVID-19 Urgent Appeal was launched to acknowledge and support NHS staff, volunteers and patients impacted by COVID-19 across the country. The money raised is funding grants to help NHS charities and to support NHS staff and patients in ways above and beyond what NHS funding can ordinarily provide. And it includes wellbeing packs, rest and recuperation rooms, electronic tablets for isolated patients to communicate with loved ones. Amazing idea. So what they're doing is, along with partners Tanglewood Premium Wine Accessories, Decanter and Honest Grapes, they're offering the opportunity to win a beautiful package for the ultimate wine lover. Handmade wine storage by Sorrels Tanglewood Wine. And there's glasses. So what you do is you enter this amazing prize. Now I'll tell you what the prizes are. A 168 bottle bespoke Sorrels wine wall with LED lighting and a glass display area. Prize 2, a variety of exclusive wines from Honest Grapes. Love you guys over there. It's my friend Tom Harrow. Has much smarter suits than me to start your collection. Number 3, a set of beautiful Lehman Glass F. Sommier collection wine glasses, courtesy of Tanglewood Premium Wine Accessories. Or prize 4, a 3-year premium subscription to Decanter magazine, who I have written for before. I was their most complained about ever columnist. So to enter those four prizes, you just complete 2 simple steps. Look here on the screen. Donate using this link just there. And 2, share one of our social media fundraising posts. That's all you do. To ensure your donation name matches the account you share the post with to enter. That's very important because some people got weird names. You've got to be over 21, and we will be announcing the winners in June. Wishing you all the very best of luck. Well, thank you very much to Sorrels, to Tanglewood, to Honest Grapes, and to Decanter Magazine. Brilliant prizes. Time for the last wine. Nicholas Altare, Dogliani. Now, Dogliani is a DOCG. This is a particular regional expression of Dolcetto, which is sometimes a misnomer. It's called Italy's Beaujolais, largely on the basis that it means the little sweet one. It's a sort of soft, sweet grape variety. But it's different. They're not the same. And now, Nicholas Altare, ladies, hold on to your hats. He's a very handsome man. He's one of the most promising young winemakers in Piemonte. And he took over the family business aged 16 when he persuaded his dad to convert it to organic farming. That's absolutely extraordinary. His family previously sold their grapes to other winemakers. Now he's got the support of a guy called Fernando Principiano, and he decided to start his own winery. Now then, totally different to Barbera. This is all about plums. It is sweeter. It's more tannic. Barbera is actually quite a lightly tannic grape variety. There's more heft, if you like, to Dolcetto. It's floral in its way. It's got a sort of floral character, whereas Dolcetto is perhaps a bit more herby. This is more sweetly floral and perfumed. Oh, that is really beautiful. Old vines. Now, this has spent a lot of time in concrete mats, and you can kind of feel this. There is a textural feel to wine that's been in concrete mats. I can't explain it. Maybe others can. Difference between the two. Where would we go with food? You really do need... There is more tannin to this. I think it's a meatier wine, is the Dolcetto. But I don't know if it's steaks, really. It's wild boar, if you've got any. I love Barbera with pizzas, I've got to confess, but there's a fresh acidity, so tomato-based dishes with Barbera are really good. And you can start your evening with Roberto Garbarino's sparkling wine. A couple of questions. I don't know if I can read your name. I think it says Scatman Ron. A colleague at work has informed me that the deeper the indentation at the bottom of a bottle of wine, the better the wine is. Sounds like voodoo magic to me. Any truth in it? Well, the thing at the bottom is called a punt or the kick. I think in America it's known as the kick. That has a slightly deeper kick or punt than this. No, but yes, but no, but yes is the answer to that. There are various origins for the name. Some people believe that it comes from the French word, is it ponty? And it was because it's the stick, the iron rod, that when you're hand blowing a bottle, it causes that indentation. Other people say it comes from ponte, the Italian word for a bridge. It has the same effect. The purpose of it is that it makes the bottle stronger, and it has the same effect as an arch bridge. You know, when you get an old-fashioned, like, well, all sorts of bridges, but medieval stone bridges, it makes the bottle stronger. If you want to understand exactly how much stronger, look at a bottle of Roederer Cristal, where there is no punt, but the glass is about that thick to stop it exploding. So champagne bottles have to have a very deep punt. No, it makes no difference at all. It just means it's a bottle with a deeper punt. That's all it means. Except winemakers over time have realised that we can't taste the wine inside, so they sometimes have to give us other clues, the kind of peacock's tail, to show us that it's a better wine than ordinary. So a lot of really smart wines come in bottles with really, really deep punts. Then sometimes, of course, others, a bit like, invasive species, they kind of give themselves a deep punt to pretend that it's a smarter bottle of wine. So I know there's a very cheap wine that I used to sell lots of many years ago, and it sold really well because it had a really deep punt. I'm not going to tell you the name of it. It's mostly in restaurants. Phenomenally successful, solely because it was a relatively cheap wine. It came in a bottle with a deep punt. Mostly, though, yeah, it probably is a sort of a shorthand for finding slightly smarter bottles of wine. But you'll tend to find they're more expensive. They're more expensive bottles, so you tend to put more expensive wine in more expensive bottles. I hope that answers the question. Someone asked me about Italian wine book recommendations. Melissa Ann says the Gambaro Rosso guide. I don't think I have one on my shelf. I've got one somewhere. Well, it's right up at the top. It's a really good guide to lots of producers. Nicholas Belfridge, great British author. His wine books are still classics. There's one, is it Barolo to Valpolicella? And there's was it Brunello to Valpolicella? I can't remember exactly. And then there's Brunello to Zibibo, which is his study of southern Italian wines. Joe Bastianich wrote a very good one in the United States. Jenny Blassie in Canberra, Australia. Hello, loving the show from Canberra, Australia. May I ask 2 questions? Can you walk us through your swirling technique? It's very straightforward. You got to practice, but it's just to coat the inside of the glass a little bit and then sniff. If you want to practice, start on a table moving it round, because that takes a bit of skill, finger movement. And some people store their wine in a fridge with the cap facing the door, others with a cork cap facing the rear of the fridge. Is there a correct way and why? No, there isn't. I suspect the closest analogy is, do you have your lavatory paper facing out or facing in? And there's probably some class-based thing. I'm told the Queen has it on the wall side and the rest of the world has it on the outside, but I don't know if that's true. Sarah and Klaus Löffler in Canterbury. Thank you very much for being very kind about the show. You were making your evenings. Johnny Wren from Songbird Wines. You met him today as he dropped off a delivery at a distance, brackets. Hello, Johnny from Songbird Wines, Glorious Wines. Lovely. I'm so glad you got to meet Sarah and Klaus. Can you do a shout out for an NHS one for the incredible Steffi Smith? Hello, Steffi Smith, who is working in London in ICU, and Kirsty Ryson as well, who is also a fabulous NHS warrior. Kirsty, Steffi, thank you very much. I'm going to get an extra large hat to tip like that to you for all your hard work in ICU in London. That's amazing. Brilliant. Right, what else do we have? Shauna Harrison says, how's your barrel of wine doing? You might remember that. That was in Series 1. Haven't got it yet. Anybody know how to work out French customs? Give us a shout. And the last question, Chris Joseph. What are your feelings on wine ratings? I wrote some notes down for this because I want to get this right. Hugh Johnson said, he wrote about Robert Parker and wine ratings. Robert Parker made them famous. So wine ratings, score a wine out of 100. Like nothing under 70. It's always between 80 and 100. Hugh Johnson was asked, and he said, you must be joking. What else does he score? His friends? His family? I'm Team Johnson on this one. I think that you can't summarise a wine to a number. There's too much that's going on. Some of the cheapest wines in the world are some of the things that I've enjoyed enormously. There are other wines which are, not nearly as expensive, and I've which is much more expensive and that I've not really enjoyed very much. So I sort of don't mind that. I'll tell you what though, there is a little bit here. This book, Conspicuous Consumption, it's Unproductive Consumption of Goods is Honourable by Thorstein Veblen. This is an insight into why people do it. Thorstein Veblen was a Norwegian sociologist, Norwegian-American sociologist, and he wrote this is broadly a satire on American people, the F. Scott Fitzgerald kind of generation. And I've actually got a little bit of a note here. And he said, conspicuous consumption of valuable goods is a means of reputability to the gentleman of leisure. As wealth accumulates on his hands, his own unaided effort will not avail to sufficiently put his opulence in evidence by this method. And one of the things he particularly points out is he says the growth of punctilious discrimination as the qualitative excellence in eating, drinking, etc. presently affects not only the manner of life, but also training and intellectual ability. He sort of pointed out where these gentlemen of leisure, and it was gentlemen at the time, they needed to sort of turn their hobbies into quasi-jobs to show how refined they were. And effectively, scores on wine is like scores on the stock market. It shows how clever you are and how refined you are. Oh, yeah, so I only drink 92s. You know, or I bought this when it was an 88, but it's been rescored now, it's a 92. Or, you know, I've got the best collection of... And when they talk about 92s, it's the score, it's not the vintage. And that was sort of captured 100 years ago, probably slightly more actually, by Thorstein Veblen. And it's a brilliant read. It's quite funny in its way, and it's sort of old-fashioned now, but that's where I think they come from. Actually, wine's not about that. It's about personality and joy and living. And thus endeth the sermon. Thank you very much again, particularly to James and Gabriele who put this together at Ultravino. Go and visit them, ultravino, I think .co.uk. Anyway, they're on the web. You can go and buy them. Go and visit them, buy their wines. Like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much indeed. 80 million people can't be wrong. That's roughly how many people have watched The Wine Show. So remember, it's on Hulu and Amazon Prime. It's amazing lockdown viewing. And I will see you with or without that ridiculous dachshund on Wednesday.